Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sarel van Grenen, aka Mr. VG, and I'm about halfway with this in this chapter on analytical geometry, working through the midpoint formula, specifically applications to different shapes. So in this specific question, we are going to look at how midpoint formula will work in shapes like parallelograms or rectangles or squares. So it's important for you to know the properties of those shapes. Let's take this example. The following sketch shows a parallelogram ACDB. Okay, let's just stop for a moment. It's a parallelogram with all of the different properties, but the one I'm specifically going to look at is that in a parallelogram, the diagonals bisect one another, which means that E is the midpoint of AD and BC. So E, that little point, is where those diagonals cross, and it's the midpoint. So if they ask me for the coordinates of E, I'm going to start off by using the midpoint between A and D. Why? Because coordinates A and D are given. How do I determine that? Well, simply using the midpoint formula. So I'm going to add the two x values divided by 2. Same with the y values divided by 2. So therefore, E is the coordinates of 1/2, 3/2. Now, I love to just look at my sketch and ask myself, does it make sense? Well, how do I even know that? Look at the x and the y value. Are they both on the positive sides? Yes. X is on the positive side at E, there, and y is also on the positive side there. So it does make sense. So let's put in what we've got on the sketch. So E is the coordinates of 1/2, 3/2, and I'm going to use the property that E is also the midpoint of BC. Now, because B doesn't have a set of coordinates given, I'm going to label it as x, y. Please understand, ladies and gents, there is an easier way of doing this, but I'm going to do it the long way for this video. So I'm going to start by, again, going to my midpoint formula. The x value of E, the y value of E, is that midpoint formula. Splitting it up according to the theory video where I've got my x values, substituting what I've got the x value of E and the x value of C. I'm gonna now solve that by multiplying by 2. So therefore the x value of B is -1. Looking at my sketch, does it make sense? Yes, -1 makes sense. Next up, I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to repeat this process by looking at the y values, substituting in and solving. So I've got a y value of -2. Does it make sense? Yes, it does. When looking at the midpoint formula, ladies and gents, it's important that you remember the properties. You've got to study the properties of the different quads. Kites, parallelograms, rectangles, squares, rhombi. It's important that you know those properties and are able to apply them and use those formulas. So have a beautiful rest of your day. Please tune in the next video where we are going to dive deep into gradients. So keep well. This is Mr. VG signing off. Cheers.